Let me tell you what I believe.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
There's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch.
Luminous being, so not this crude matter.
Death is just another path, one that we all must take.
Somewhere out there, you have another father, too, who gave you another name. And he sent you here for a reason, Clark.
You don't owe these people anymore. You've given them everything.
Not everything. Not yet.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Directed by God, the podcast where we look for how God appears in film. And today I am joined by...
I'm vengeance.
You were just waiting to do that.
I was ready. I set up everything. I predestined everything in order to do that.
It was predestined that you would do that.
I'm Reagan.
That was
Reagan.
good.
Who else do we have?
I'm Seth.
And we have Seth. All right, and today we're taking a look at the new film, The Batman.
We're here to talk about the new Batman film titled The Batman. This is, what is this movie? This is, what, the 13th Batman film? I don't know. There are a lot of Batman movies out there.
Depends on which ones you count.
Let's count them real quick. Theatrical releases. We'll make it simple. No video. We've got Tim Burton 1.
And 2.
Returns. Mask of the Phantasm. Batman Forever. Batman and Robin. That's 5.
And all the Dark Knight trilogy.
Batman
3.
Begins. 1, 2, 3.
7.
Yeah.
And then I guess he's in...
That's 8.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then he's in...
Lego Batman movie.
Oh, yeah. That one has to count. It's 9.
Batman v Superman.
It's
Lego
10.
Batman. That's 10 so far.
And then Justice League, if that counts.
Justice League. Yeah, that counts.
Dude,
Absolutely.
there's so many Batman movies.
So this is 12. I think 12.
Now, there was one cameo of him in The Joker. Ooh, The Joker.
Doesn't count.
But
The Batman
Batman
Joker.
66, Adam West.
Absolutely
Do not
counts.
forget.
13. 13.
So
is
many
13.
Batman films.
It was
Batman
13.
films. Wow.
Isn't 13 like a spooky number?
Yes.
Kind of a witchy number?
Witchy number. Big witch energy, I would say.
Anyway, it's a new Batman film. New director, new actor. It's a new take.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a new spin on Batman we haven't seen before. Exactly. Not quite like this. And with that comes new questions of how Christian is it, I guess. New director, new writer.
Yeah.
What messages are they trying to tell us?
Right.
What is their view of Gotham, the Batman, and how it fits with the ethics of our modern times?
Definitely. Well, let's just go around and let's just share a couple thoughts on, what we were expecting and then what we thought about it. How about you, Nathan?
All right.
Were you looking forward to it?
Yeah. So I think DC Fandom is one of the first trailers they premiered, and just the use of sound design in that trailer was awesome.
Was this the one where it was interrupted by COVID, so they only had a couple shots from the actual movie?
I'm trying to remember. So it's like really silent, except you just hear the really loud like duct tape.
I think that
Riddler.
is that one. Yeah.
And it's kind of minimalist, but you just get glimpses into, ooh, this is dark and this is menacing, and there's this murderer. It's not a zany superhero villain. This is a gritty kind of detective take, which was an exciting kind of revelation, realizing that the Riddler is the villain. And the one thing I was hyped about was all of that. You have the trailers leading up to the film. The music seemed amazing. The color palette, the style is really in. But the part that I was less certain about is also kind of about how dark it was. Because there's this part in one of the trailers where he just beats a guy over and over and over.
You see that.
And then he says that he's vengeance.
I'm vengeance.
And it's cool, but also it made me wonder, like, with the vengeance part being so heavy in the marketing, is this film a revenge thriller? Is this movie going to be a fun ride, but maybe devoid of ethics in that area? Sure. And I think the film really surprised me in that way. But I was excited. I thought it looked cool. It has Batman in it, a new Batmobile. I'm gonna watch it. And the Cat Bat trailer too, like just seeing
that was a really good trailer.
Developing the Catwoman Batman romance in a way that maybe we've never seen on film on the big screen before. Super excited. Would always see any Batman movie, but specific things I was hesitant about as well.
Gotcha. And what did you think of the film?
So
He liked it.
I liked it a lot. I liked it way more than I thought I would, and I was already pretty hyped going in. Kind of because of what I was saying earlier. I had these reservations that maybe morally or spiritually the film wouldn't live up, even if it looked and felt awesome. And I thought the themes were really interesting and really strong, and of course, the style, the detective take, the fact that it didn't feel like a superhero movie as much as a crime thriller where you have these the ciphers and the riddles and the kind of grisly murders, but they're kind of mostly off screen. Yeah. Just going from clue to clue in the seedy underbelly of Gotham.
I think a lot of people are pointing
really
to
cool.
David Fincher stuff.
Yes.
Like Zodiac.
Zodiac or like Seven. The closest Batman thing I can think of is kind of tying into like the Arkham games, because I love detective stuff with Batman. He's the greatest detective, so it's cool to see that, and rarely do we. Yeah. Like in Justice League, you have a few moments of him like using a gadget or like using his know-how to figure out something, but to have a film where he just literally goes to the scene of a crime, looks at the body, figures stuff out, was really cool.
More police procedural.
Yeah, exactly. a police procedural Batman, where Batman and Jim Gordon are kind of buddy cop in this grand conspiracy.
Sure.
The action was awesome. The style,
and very understated villains as well. I mean, the Penguin, he's just kind of a guy with a scar. So yeah, it's just like everything was very real,
very grounded,
very grounded. Sure.
What about you?
Me? Well, I can't remember a whole lot of what I was looking forward to. I definitely thought it looked cool.
Awesome posters.
I was definitely maybe a little more like, oh, more Batman. I don't think I was all that thrilled about it, but I was like, okay, I will watch it. Mm-hmm. I felt compelled to. I mean, look at that right there. It looks awesome. This is a picture of the Batman in the red. It looked cool. Oh, and the picture's gone away. Anyway, and I had another friend too. We didn't actually get to see it together, but he has never watched a single Batman movie, but he wanted to watch this one, and so it looked cool, and I was excited to see it. I was definitely one of the trailers. It teased an interaction between Batman and Alfred to like it seemed like they were going to go into the Batman family. The Batman story itself is going to have new twists and turns, and I thought that was going to be interesting, like almost like a family secret. And I was excited to learn more about that.
That was in the movie, kind of
somewhere, perhaps not on screen. Anyway, so watching the film, I liked it. Okay. Found it to be dark, but not in the way you were discussing. I found it hard to see what was happening. I found the style to be cool, but I felt like there was a bag of tricks that was used numerous times. And I liked Robert Pattinson as Batman. He was cool. He was very vulnerable and underpowered. But I don't know, he just didn't have it all figured out. And it was cool to see him take some hits. But I think I had a hard time getting in his head and really understanding. Because, they don't do backstory in this movie. They kind of expect you to get it. And there's just a lot of things that happen off screen with him and his story. So I had a hard time really knowing where he was at. And was a little bored, being honest. And but it was cool. It was a cool movie. I enjoyed watching it. Boom.
Cool. I was not too hyped for it because I was kind of like Reagan. I was just going, another Batman film already, and do we have anything more to say with Batman at this point in time? But I was looking forward to it because it looked cool, but I wasn't super hyped for it like I probably would be. I would have been with the Nolan films. But as I got closer to release, I thought I started seeing some of the trailers, and the trailers started showing some really cool stuff. I mean, the car chase with the Penguin.
The upside down firewalk.
The upside down shot. Yeah. The beautiful silhouetted shots of Batman and Catwoman in the scaffolding.
The new iconic musical theme.
Great, yeah, really cool music.
Cool. They released that a couple weeks before. I like that decision. That was cool.
They did. And I think there was one shot in the trailer that got me really excited. It was a shot of Gotham flooding, and I just didn't know what that was, and I thought, oh, this movie's going to be bigger than I thought it was. Like, the story's going to be bigger, because I didn't even know what the story was. And there was this awesome line in the trailer where Batman says the answer is justice, and you can tell it's a riddle. It's just cool. So something...
Very important line in the film.
It kind of wasn't, unfortunately, but this film had really good trailers, and I started to get excited as it got closer to release. I definitely liked the movie, and I really liked this take on Batman, and this is a very unique story for Batman, and one that surprised me with. I don't know. I mean, the movie just kind of questions like, should you be a vengeful person? I really like that. And applying to the Batman character was cool. It was well done. I did think it was too long though, and I got a little bored at times. And but the ending was so strong. I mean, the ending with the way it ends with him helping people, and you just maybe more than other Batman films. I look at him at the end and I say, "There's been a strong change in this character. This is a different man than he was, and he's in a better place, a more peaceful place." It's really cool. Dark Knight Rises has that too, but he retires, so
Yeah,
that's a little different.
Yeah,
but anyway, I did like the movie, and I liked what they did with that character and what I think the film was saying. Just a little boring.
and Batman just like overtly helping people too. It's
Yeah.
kind of less his thing. His thing is more punching
Yeah.
people in the dark. So that was just cool. I mean, he's got this tender moment with this lady in the paramedic tube capsule, medical capsule, episode 3. But it was tender. It was a strange moment for that character. I like that a lot.
I did too.
It was cool. But
Absolutely.
Now, what is the film saying? Do you guys?
Before we talk about what it's saying, maybe we should talk about a general plot summary of just what even
Oh,
happens.
sure.
So you got Batman is year 2. This film takes a lot from Batman.
for 2 years now.
Oh man, opening
Am I making a difference? I don't know.
with the voiceover was so cool.
The voiceover was really
I wish the
strong.
whole film had
It was
been-
like
had done that.
Rorschach's journal, very noir.
It was like Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because Rorschach's just taken from Batman.
Yeah, it's just an archetype. Yeah.
It's awesome. I don't know why they didn't do that the whole movie, but it was really cool. But basically, the premise is Batman's still young. He's still new in his crime fighting. The youngest Batman we've ever seen on screen. No, Batman Begins. You had year 1 Batman for sure. I mean, you see the whole process there. So I shouldn't say that. But anyway, yeah, it's a young Batman making mistakes, and there's a new threat. There's this serial killer who's leaving riddles, and Batman and Jim Gordon are kind of all by themselves. They're kind of trying to figure this out. And it turns out that, maybe this is more than a serial killer. Maybe there's a dark secret under the web of Gotham that could undo everything, undo the whole society. Unmask the truth as the tagline.
Cool.
That's my synopsis,
Cool.
It's a good synopsis.
without spoiling
I'm trying to
anything.
remember what the secret was.
I could tell you.
I also think it's cool, with that being the plot, just how much the city itself and the way the visuals portray it kind of contribute to this just seedy, rotten underbelly that's getting ready to collapse. Because the whole movie feels like you're under like the heat lamp they put over reptiles, but also in the rain. So just like steam coming off the ground. It's just harsh and back night alleys. Like Gotham is not an attractive place at all.
Yeah.
But in like a really cool, once again, kind of noirish way.
I don't know. I saw some pretty good party places, clubs. Seemed like a fun place to hang out, spend a summer.
It's like there's either streets where you're gonna get mugged, or clubs where the criminals and the mobsters hang out, or
Rooftops.
or rooftops.
Those are the
like
three
the
locales.
skyscrapers.
There was a nice church. Thank you.
There was a
thriving
The
religious
cathedral
community.
was cool.
Thriving religious community there.
Thriving religious community.
There's a building that looks just like it in Dark Knight Returns, like the Gotham Life building. So I don't know if there's a direct parallel there. I am not super well versed in that lore, but I was watching a clip
Which
of
building?
that movie recently.
Oh, the movie.
From there's a cartoon adaptation of the book Dark Knight Returns, and there's a scene in the Gotham Life building. It has a very similar, like, kind of tall cathedral-ish kind of artifice on the outside.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
I don't remember that. Sounds cool.
That's a good plot synopsis. What was this film rated? Was it R?
It is PG-13. There was some kind of rumors that it would be R going in, and it's R in terms of kind of audience and subject matter, but in terms of what they actually show, there's a lot of like blurry camera or cuts to black that obscure what would have made it
See,
R.
when I hear PG-13 for this, I think of what is that stupid movie? What's the Indiana Jones movie? Temple of Doom getting a PG rating. Because it's tricky. It's a dark film.
PG-13 is not what it used to be.
No, not at all.
Like,
This
the
changed a
Avengers
lot.
in this having the same rating
Yeah.
feels kind of crazy.
And this has an F word in it, doesn't it?
It does.
One-
It uses the one PG-13 F word. But it goes back to kind of, not to get off on a complete tangent, but ratings as objective versus subjective. 2 F words and it's an R, but you have a film that's clearly R-rated in its subject matter and its tone. Like, we have objective metrics, but then there's the subjective thing of, like, this is clearly not made for children, even if it's appropriate.
Be careful
for
with your
children.
kids in this film, I would say.
Even if the legal group of movie rating Pharisees says it's okay for children,
It's not.
It's like, I loved it, but
the
we
oral
always
law
say...
may say one thing, but the true law
The
may
written
say
law.
another thing.
we always in the past 2 films we've looked at were rated R, so we gave a viewer discretion for those. But
Yeah.
really, with any film, regardless of the rating, use your own discretion, your own,
We'll be playing a clip of the F word.
spirit, your own spiritual, conscience, Holy Spirit for that.
Is Batman.
But
I mean,
it's not for your kids exactly.
It's mostly, crime fighting. It's not, it's not a David Fincher film.
I don't know. There was a very nice implied scene about a man hanging out with some mice, some pet mice.
There is some
Delightful scene.
disturbing off-screen torture, and definitely some heavy, dark
Yes.
moments.
What
but
I'll
it's
say,
not super inappropriate either.
if you remember the scene in The Dark Knight where Joker is filming that guy he had to kill, he doesn't actually do it, but it implies a lot. That scene happens 4 or 5 times in this movie,
It's very
And you see
intense.
more.
and you see more.
Because in the Dark Knight, it's more about the sound that
Man
you
of my
hear.
word.
But then you hear him growl, and you hear the guy scream, and the camera shakes, and you can't see it. This movie...
Very loud handy cam.
Yeah. But this movie, it is more graphic.
Yeah.
It's a more graphic, more violent Batman movie, for sure.
Very filmic.
I will share a little anecdote. After the first scene in this film, I was sitting next to 2 moms and 2 kids, and they left. So do with that what you will. If you are a concerned parent, I did think it was a bit dark for us.
If you're not a concerned parent, just bring them.
just bring them.
It'll be a formative moment for them. either
Bring
way.
your toddler.
Why not?
I thought it was a bit dark for a superhero film.
And I do love, at the very, very beginning, it sets the tone so strong, not with what it does, but with what it doesn't do, because it, instead of launching into all, like, the typical, like, intro company montages of everybody's, 10-second little animation, instead it has the DC logo in red with no sound. Just silence.
Oh, that's right. That's cool.
And it's like, it starts on screen and you're just like, okay, we are in for something that's tense and
Scary.
And red.
red. Tense and
Tense and
Red
red.
and black. It's like Last Jedi. Red and black.
What is this movie saying?
What is the movie saying?
Well, I was kind of getting into it in my synopsis, so it's definitely saying something about justice, and it's almost kind of like Batman Begins. It's similar to a Sodom and Gomorrah story, like Batman Begins, but it's unlike it, where in Batman Begins you've got a guy who's trying to who's trying to bring justice to Gotham, have a clean slate. And this movie, it kind of just happens on its own. It's like the Riddler's there messing around and prodding things, but it also, you get the sense in this one, this has just been festering for a long time, and it's time for something new.
It's bringing ruin upon itself by being there.
So that is, it's saying something about justice and God's wrath there, similar to Batman Begins. So that was cool. But I think the bigger story is, it's the younger Batman, and he's going through a personal change. He's learning what it means to be a vigilante and what it means to have vengeance in your heart. And by the end of the film, he's not that character anymore. He has changed a little bit to where he's more like he's helping people. He has a peace inside him. He's directly confronted with, one of the Riddler's henchmen, or the incel army, as Reagan called it, the incel army. Hey.
I don't see any of them being married.
I think what you were going to say was, hey,
Hey,
I'm one of them.
it's me. Oops. I guess I have no proof to deny that. My current lifestyle situation.
Current lifestyle. Anyway, but Batman's confronted by, the Riddler's henchman. The Riddler says, I'm vengeance. And Batman thinks, oh, I said that.
Yes.
And it's a little, the storytelling maybe is a little blunt there, but no, it's cool. Batman, the young Batman has to realize, I gotta be more than this.
When you embrace the darkness and embrace fear,
Yeah.
powerful tools. And it's just...
You've made darkness your ally.
You made darkness your ally. And it's just, when you create a world that is shaped by that, just don't be surprised what comes out.
Yes, and I think the movie did a pretty good job. It's a little subtle. The storytelling is pretty subtle in this movie, like not a lot of exposition.
Subtle's one word for it.
So that was one word for it.
In fact,
anyway. Well, hold on, but
Please.
the beginning of the movie, he's so angry, and his first mission with Catwoman, he's just kind of barking orders at her. And he's not really, he's not really seeing her as a human being and treating her the way she needs to be treated. He just has this mission. He doesn't really see these people as human beings. By the end, he's helping the firefighters, put people on stretchers.
Yeah.
Seeing Batman just help people at the end was cool. I really liked it.
He literally is embracing a light. He's got this red flare.
Yes.
So
leading people. Yeah. So the end of the film, I mean, I think the big message of the movie is, I don't know, you were in need of spiritual healing, and you can be a light to people.
Sounds great. Just a little bit more of that. I mean, again, you're right. The movie is understated. In fact, a lot of the arcs, I even the main one, I go, did I ever see him actually flip a switch from vengeance to hope? I
saw it.
Yeah, I have a hard time finding that moment.
Kind of grows over time.
I can pinpoint it.
Yeah. But
would you like me to pinpoint
please
it?
pinpoint it. Please.
It is one of the many, many rooftop dialogue scenes in this film. Every other scene is we are talking and we're on a rooftop. That's kind of my one big gripe is just, dude, it's Batman. Just, can we just fight people, please?
Punch, please.
There's some good action, but I think we need 25% more action. But anyway, that's fine. Still a good movie. But yeah, one of the times that Batman's talking with Catwoman, I can't remember exactly the conversation, but she says something. He goes, "Oh, I didn't realize it was that way. I'm sorry." That definitely happens. Do you remember what they're talking about there, Nathan?
It's about, he keeps pressing her about, like, oh yeah, you have a relationship with him. I bet you just kind of like throw yourself at him and let him do things.
He's my
sexually.
dad,
right?
And she goes, "That's my dad." And he goes,
Right.
"Oh, I was projecting what I thought your life
Absolutely.
was, but you actually have a life experience I didn't understand."
That's the moment where he starts to turn.
Sure. That's a cool moment.
Yep.
Another one I pinpoint, again, it is subtle.
I thought you said you couldn't pinpoint any.
Well, this is one.
This is Midrash.
Moving on from that strange Jewish tangent. One would be, again, this character's in two scenes, so it's kind of hard to make it much more than it is. But at the very beginning, he snaps at Alfred and goes, "You're not my dad." But then by the end, he says, "I realized I was afraid. I was afraid to lose someone I cared about again." And he holds his hand.
Yeah, it's sweet.
And so, again, that's my bigger gripe with the movie is usually the character development is, it seems like it's one scene he does this, next scene he does this, but like an hour later, 2 hours later. But anyway.
It's understated.
Very understated.
It's understated. But
hey,
hey,
that's a key
a filmmaker we love, George Lucas, very understated.
I wouldn't say so. Anyway, yes, so that's a big one too.
One of the lines that really, really drew me was at the beginning when he snaps at Alfred, and Alfred's like, "Why don't you like do these events to like help the city or the philanthropy and stuff?" And Bruce is like, "What I'm doing is Batman. Like, this is my legacy. This is the only important thing. So this is the only thing I'm going to focus on. Everything else is meaningless and secondary."
Does he say that, or is the mayor?
He does, because he's trying to get him to have breakfast with
so
the
accountants. The mayor also says that.
Yeah.
The mayor also gets on to Bruce for that, without the knowledge of the Batman stuff. But Alfred is like, "Why don't you like engage with the world a little bit?" And he's like, "My life is Batman.
Dude,
nothing has meaning but Batman. This is me fulfilling my father's legacy."
Yeah.
And there's a question throughout of what the father's legacy means. But the real themes that I think... Unanswered, perhaps. But...
Unasked, even. Just kidding.
What I really think the movie is about is very similar to what you were saying, Seth. There's this relationship between vengeance and justice and hope and fear. That hope and heroism make the world a better place, but vengeance and fear will lead you into further darkness. And the thought that you can make the world better or scare the enemy into righteousness through fear and vengeance is just perpetuating that cycle.
And it's worse for you.
And it affects you even more than it does them. It actually brings you...
There's a healing power in helping other people.
Yes. Because everyone's heard the thing of like, you know, you don't want to bring yourself down to their level. But it's more than that. You're actually scarring your soul and hurting. There's this incredible moment. I think it's the most powerful moment in the film where Catwoman's trying to kill her dad. And Bruce starts kind of restraining her and doesn't just tell her to not take vengeance, but he's like, he did something wrong. He needs to pay, but you don't need to keep paying with him. Like, vengeance takes a toll on you. Bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness, like, that's a toll on your heart that you got to let go of.
I love that. You see her hand shaking. She just kind of releases the gun.
Powerful.
Yeah, it's good. But now I think Reagan pointed out there's a scene shortly
there's a
after
scene
that.
where her dad is gunned down because he was brought into the light. And there's this really, not great, very bad actually, weird insert of Catwoman just looking at her dad's dead body, and she goes, and walks away. So, yes, she didn't kill him. That is good. But also she was not upset that he died.
So Bruce learned the lesson. She doesn't quite get it yet.
She's on the way.
She's on the way.
She took one step forward.
Regenerate heart.
He planted a seed. He planted a seed.
Well, to see what soil it was. In the future, we'll have to see.
We'll see. In the inevitable sequel and
18 spin-off
HBO
series.
Max TV shows.
Yes. Yeah,
that was another complaint I will say is 3 hours for not a lot of story and setting up more stuff. When you've got 3 hours, you could have told like an epic Batman story. Because at the end, when he's talking about the city's under martial law and the city's flooded, and he said there's a power vacuum. I'm just imagining.
It could have happened in the first hour.
Absolutely. I'm just imagining Batman and the army of cops fighting, and it's like rooftop battles, and maybe they're driving boats through.
Boats through the flooded Gotham.
It's a great setup, and it happens in literally the last scene of the movie. And it's just, come on, guys. I know shared universe. I know your shared universe has to pay all of your WB employees for the next 10 years. I understand, but we gotta tell stories. We still have to tell stories here. Anyway, but hey, I'll be there for the next one, so if it worked. But I'll still be complaining.
Yeah, it seemed like the movie also at the end again, with the comparison between the Riddler and Batman, was also saying. I mean, he literally says that basically, what you do with your scars is very important. That's an opportunity for you to learn and grow, or it's an opportunity for you to fester and hurt others.
Psychopath.
And one thing we mentioned earlier was that interrogation scene where he realizes that you're saying the same. The Riddler thought that Batman would love what he was doing. He thought that the Batman was on the same page because he was inspired by fear and vengeance, the Batman way.
You got a mask? I wore a mask.
And
we're buddies.
I think it's cool because so often in Batman lore you hear comparisons to the Joker. The Joker's like, you're one bad day away from becoming me. But if he truly is a hero, like, you still have the idea, the question of like, if you had a bad circumstance, would you act differently? Like, you always have the question, like, if something happened, would you act differently? But there's not really stuff to show that. In this movie, you go way deeper, where Riddler is just one step further.
They're literally
this
both,
is the logical.
They're both orphans. They're both kind of have that trauma.
This is the logical conclusion of what Batman's doing if he keeps going that direction.
Yeah.
And he starts to realize, I was wondering where this would lead. If that's where it leads, I don't want it.
Yeah. I was definitely surprised when Paul Dano was surprised by the Batman not liking it, because I just kind of went, the whole time he's been fighting you.
I felt like that needed a little more setup.
Yeah.
Because looking back, of course, I can see how the Riddler thinks that Batman is working with him the whole time, but I don't know. It just, it was so, it felt a little out of left field. Because the whole time I'm thinking, just because of my knowledge of Batman, in my head, the Riddler is playing with Batman the whole time. Not like toying with him, not thinking they're buddies.
The letters you think are antagonistic, but the movie recontextualizes them as being affectionate.
Yes. Yeah. So that was, I don't know. I'd have to watch it again and think more about that. But I felt like they didn't quite earn that twist a little bit.
There's a strange moment akin to that a little bit where, playing with the fear versus hope thing. There's a scene at the beginning. It's really cool. The narration, we've hit it already, but where he goes and rescues this guy being assaulted in the subway, and you're seeing these scenes across Gotham where the presence of the shadow is enough to scare away people.
That's cool.
But then this guy's getting accosted, and then Batman comes in and he beats up all the goons, And then the guy on the ground is like,
He's terrified.
don't hurt me. And I just go, I didn't really understand that. It's almost like, I guess the commentary there is Batman is just fear. I guess no one is seeing him as a good guy yet. However, I had a hard time divorcing who I know and what I've seen Batman be to understand that personally. But anyway, it was cool.
You know what the story I think was missing was, how did Batman and Jim Gordon come to be friends? Because
he would have to see that in him.
With it, absolutely. And what does Jim Gordon see in Batman, even early in Batman's career when he's angry and vengeful? What is the spark of good or the light that Jim Gordon does see in him?
Yeah, because they're the two true.
It's them versus the world.
It's them versus the world.
Gordon trusts him more than anybody else.
Is really cool.
I would have loved to have seen that. I think the biggest flaw with the film is it just makes a choice to say we're not doing the origin again.
We're not showing you any of the backstory.
And it was a choice. The film stuck to it, but particularly with that Jim Gordon relationship, I was just wondering, why are these guys buddies? What happened? And I felt a little cheated by that.
Yeah. Maybe one more piece that will come up in the Bible section is, it's almost like, Batman, he's got this kind of self mythology, perhaps, and questioning that with your father. Was your father such a good guy?
Oh yeah. So what? Yeah. What is the self mythology? We don't learn.
We don't really know, but I think we can safely import from other films of just, I miss my dad. I love him. He was a good man. Now I'm gonna fight. I don't know. Very simple. Very simple. But this time that was being questioned. Is he even a good person? Is he even a person who could inspire? So it was a very modern kind of critiquing of our heroes. I mean, not to get political, but we've just gone through some things where our statues, our people, our leaders,
our Batman,
people don't like that anymore. They're not. They don't think people should be made into symbols. And
just the concept of the father, fundamentally.
Sure.
A lot of films like to question that.
So this film it was interesting because it didn't quite reject that, but it did chart a path forward, basically saying he was a good guy. He was going to turn himself in, but then he got killed. So he's like, he was a good. It's weird.
I mean, do you believe Falcone or do you believe Alfred? I guess
I believe Alfred, but Alfred, he did chart a middle path between them. I mean, more of a good path, but anyway, the father's legacy is more complicated. You've got to make different choices.
It's like the founding fathers.
Yes.
Well, we love them, but don't romanticize or deify them.
Deify. And I think the film was at least saying you probably need to make different choices than him.
Yeah.
So
maybe so.
I think that section of the film, the whole film is dealing with these interesting contradictions, and we'll get into this more with the Bible section, but it shows very well the sinful nature of man, the corruption that's inherent, and you see true corruption, and you're talking about politics, not to go deep into that, but this is a film that questions institutions, the police, political structures.
All of it.
But it has an interesting duality where it says, hey, here are all of these corrupt, evil policemen supporting this conspiracy, but here are the ones that are good that stayed true. And here is Thomas Wayne.
Dozens of them by the end of the film.
Here's Thomas Wayne, who is flawed and made mistakes and was a sinful person, but he did want good things for Gotham and his family. He did actually have a moral character. So there's all of these interesting...
Man, I wish they'd done Batman Year One. Because there's this incredible scene, and actually just this one scene, where Batman's like praying to his father. He says, Father, you left me all these gifts. You left me the mansion, you left me the cave, you left me Alfred. I know what I must do. I must become a bat.
I must become the bat.
It's just epic. I wish that had been in there a little bit.
There definitely is a piece between the Riddler and Batman where Batman believes Gotham can change. I don't think the Riddler does believe that. Riddler is more about exposing, bringing out into the light the true character, and then orchestrating these weird events like flooding the entire city so they're all in one room, they're going to kill each other. It's like, how can I orchestrate this one thing? It reminds me of the Joker, where the Joker kind of goes, puts the two bombs in the fairies and goes, they're going to reveal who they really are.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, in this film, it endorses the fact that there actually are quite a few people who support the Riddler, and that is definitely a bit more of a modern take. This kind of incel Reddit creeps.
The fact that internet culture contributed to this radicalization.
Yeah. So that was tough because it was almost at the end you go, Batman believes the city can change, and it's on the way to changing. There's a lot of work to be done, but it can change. But then you've also, I don't know, the Riddler, he's also kind of right too in a lot of ways.
Hey, there was stuff that needed to be exposed.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's complex.
But maybe there's a way to do that isn't murder and terrorism.
But I look at that. Well, what's the film? So I think that we covered the film is a slam dunk, obviously saying something about, spiritual healing. You need a peace inside. You'll never have that being vengeful and angry. The concept of justice, though, is it getting into this area where justice is the Lord's and true justice is God raising up the Riddler to make the flooding happen, but also raising up the response to that where Gotham can be something new? I don't know. Is the Riddler like God's instrument of destruction?
I would say no.
Okay.
But I have no reason to say that.
Okay.
I just think it's ridiculous.
All I'm saying is the film's concept of justice. It's not like the film's saying the Riddler's right, but it's also not
The Riddler
saying
was necessary
I don't know,
to
maybe.
expose.
I don't know. Hey,
I think you
the flood.
certainly.
It's a flood.
Look, the rat had to be outed.
Yeah,
Who was the rat again?
it was Falcone.
The movie's ridiculous. Anyway, it's just the movie's so complicated.
I know, it's kind of cool though.
Every great
Who killed
detective
who?
story
The
should
rat?
be convoluted.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I certainly would. I
It
certainly
leaves
think
more slow, mentally challenged viewers like myself behind.
In the dust.
I think from a moral perspective, but also just within the world of the film, I think you would have to say that Riddler is psychopathic and evil and nothing. Even though everyone else was also inflicting evil,
Vessel of
nothing
destruction.
he could do was actually justified. However,
Vessel of destruction.
I don't think that there's
Like
anything to
Pharaoh.
say.
That's what I'm saying. He's like Pharaoh.
Sure. But my bigger point is just I'm completely off the rails
You
now.
destroyed him.
I've been taken down. A
Sorry,
dark path into the Jordan room.
I didn't mean to.
No, you're good. That's the wrecked T-Rex from Toy Story. What's that doing up there? I'm so sorry.
His name is Rex. Give him a moment.
Give me a moment to compose myself. Goodness gracious. Stop that hubbing.
You were saying that the Riddler is not justified in anything he does.
Yes. So I don't think the Riddler's justified. And I think this is, once again, getting more into spiritual territory. But I think what this movie shows really well with the relationship of justice and vengeance is even that if it doesn't say that vengeance is the Lord's, I do think you realize with the corruption and the sin of everyone that any time humanity decides to take the Lord's judgment into their own hands, it's going to be inherently flawed, selfish, and evil. When the Batman does it, it doesn't work. When the Riddler does it, you think it's out of this divine justice to expose the truth. But really it's not. It's out of his desire to pay them back for the wrongs they treated him with.
Yeah.
It's always going to come down to our selfish, sinful natures because we are not just judges. We can't be. It's why it's not given to us is because we have judicial systems. We do our best with laws that are almost kind of outside of our control because we can't be partial. But if we violently try to, with terrorism and other things, become judge, jury, and executioner, it just becomes a funnel of violence for our pain that twists us to the point where it's truly nothing anywhere near justice.
Always fundamentally flawed.
Yeah. It's just tough, though, because the whole concept of Batman is, I'm going to punch criminals. And at a certain point, it's hard to, separate from that.
Yeah.
Because even at the end...
The more complex and realistic you make Batman, the more...
breaks down a little bit.
There's some silliness that's revealed.
And I think Nolan did a little bit of a better job because he just went, I get all that, he just won't kill people. And so he gives him a line saying...
He doesn't kill in this movie either.
And there's actually a line where
Really hard.
Now Zack Snyder Batman killed a lot of people.
Gordon pulls a gun and Robert Pattinson's Batman's like, I don't like guns. Like, put that away. Okay. And he's like, I don't share your rule. Like, that's not my rule. That's your rule.
Batman just awkwardly stands there like...
So it is mentioned in this film that the explicit no-kill Batman thing is in place, but he still is really brutal at the beginning. Less brutal than the trailer made it seem.
Interesting.
But still brutal,
Yes.
and that changes over the course of the
That
film.
scene you mentioned, it was so strange because when he is wailing on that guy, that's like 5 minutes from the ending.
I thought that was at the end of the movie. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm like, why is that there? If you again, this whole movie, just commentary wise, I would never use the word slam dunk because it's just always a little messier than it needs to be. Because I get it. Oh, he got an adrenaline shot. He couldn't control himself, but he punched this guy. You get Catwoman goes, huh? And then it just cuts to his face, and he's just like barely alive, and the scene's over. And there was no comment on that really at all. So it's just, that was a little messy.
I agree.
But good themes. Maybe that's what the movie's about. Maybe we should. I think we've captured the movie.
Sure.
About.
Let's move on to the Bible.
Bible.
How's this movie like the Bible?
Bible.
Why don't we start with, there are some biblical allusions in this movie. There's a couple.
Truly?
Totally. You've got the concept of the flooding and the cleansing of the city. But more explicitly, you've got kind of a Bible quote, but I think it's... So you've got the sins of the father being in the movie.
Yeah. It's literally on the screen.
That's a Bible verse,
that.
but that's a Bible verse. But I think I learned this just doing a little research for it. I think that the quote in the film is technically not from the Bible because it sins of the father, and then Bruce sees it, or Batman sees it, and says sins of the father are to be laid upon the children. I think that's the line, which is technically from Shakespeare. I didn't know this, but technically it's from the
Where
Merchant.
did Shakespeare get it?
Totally, but the film is technically quoting the Merchant of Venice.
It's more of a cultural line that has a biblical origin than it's scripture out of context.
Right. But I think, the meaning of this sentence is the same, I would say. The Bible quote, the actual Bible quote would be, it's in a couple different places. I pulled it from Exodus 20. I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. So that's the full one. The other one's, I guess, shorter. And that's why they used it. I don't know.
Sure.
Or is it a deep commentary on how Bruce doesn't know his Bible? But
I think not.
Bruce just says to himself, to the generations, but the thousands who love him are going.
Anyway, so that is definitely a biblical allusion. Why is it there? What's the movie doing with that? And is it good? Any
Reagan,
thoughts?
you want to take it?
I don't really know. Because that's a biblical concept in the Old Testament you see all the time, and it's never really a bad thing. It's almost like it's righteous that God visits the sins of the father upon the children.
Yeah.
We just don't see that in the New Testament. That's not how things are working there. So I
think
don't really know.
That's mainly because in the New Testament we have the hope of Christ to break the power of those curses off of our lives and start anew. And we live in a world where, regardless of what our parents did, we can walk in the righteousness of Christ and the joy of that. In this film, it is kind of, the Riddler is imparting, he's literally trying to do that of, I am exposing the evils of Gotham, the truth of the conspiracy and the corruption, and I am going to torture Bruce Wayne because these are the sins of his parents, and he deserves to be punished and murdered for what they did.
Yeah.
So he is literally trying to visit the curse upon the son for the sins of the father.
And I think just as a moviegoer, you go, that's not fair. That's not right. And that would at least be the New Testament perspective.
I think the Riddler just misunderstands it.
Yeah.
For one. But then there's the deeper question of, I guess one thing is the New Testament perspective, those who don't follow Jesus are definitely not those who love and keep his commandments. Mm-hmm. And justice will come for them one day too. So it's, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's...
Yeah, the New Testament...
It's probably the same thing.
The New Testament does not lose its judgment and righteousness will prevail. Judgment will come to the evildoers. It does not lose that, but we don't see the sins of the father thing anymore. Mm. We get repentance. So...
What's cool, and one reason I prepared it, is that even in the Old Testament, there's these really beautiful pictures of repentance specifically averting destruction and reversing some of these curses. And you can see it in Jonah 3, where there's going to be the destruction of a city who's like Gotham, who's extremely sinful and evil and arrogant in Nineveh. And a lot of people in Sunday school remember that Jonah was disobedient, but they think it's just because, he didn't, he was too scared to follow his calling or something like that. When you actually read the story, Jonah was mad that God would offer the opportunity for these people to repent. Yeah. Jonah was sent to share how angry the Lord was at the evil and the corruption and the unrighteousness, just like Gotham, that Nineveh has. And when Nineveh hears about it, it says in Jonah 3 that he called out, "Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be overthrown." And the people of Nineveh believed God. They called to a fast, put on sackcloth from the greatest of them to the least of them. It reached the king, and they start following after God and repenting. And let everyone turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows, God may turn and relent and turn from his fierce anger so that we may not perish. And when God saw that they did, how they turned from their evil way, God relented of the disaster that he said he would do to them, and he did not do it. And it displeased Jonah exceedingly.
He's very mad.
Because he never let go of the vengeful heart. He was saying, no, God, you should destroy them. And the merciful, slow to anger God. And he literally says it in the passage. For I know that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. And this is the Old Testament. And relenting from disaster. And Jonah's like, I would rather die than see these people I hate be given your love and your forgiveness, despite everything they've done. Mm-hmm. And in Batman, it's like, hey, Thomas Wayne helped to heal a mobster who did terrible things and showed love to him instead. And it's like, yes, he did terrible things. Yes, it'd be much easier. And our human brain is like, yeah, you should just kill him. He's an awful person. And the Lord is just and he repays evil. But when he sees repentance and because of the blood of Christ that allows us to become a new creation, he forgives even the worst of crimes.
Did that happen in this film?
Hippocratic Oath. That was a weird scene where Falcone says, hey, yeah, your dad was really nice to me. He saved my life. And he goes, Hippocratic Oath.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it makes sense. Do you get it?
I get it.
Okay.
I'm just saying he's not going, oh, yeah, my dad's a good guy. He's going, Hippocratic Oath. He had to do it.
Okay.
I guess my larger point is just that the Riddler clearly does not care about theology. He's just using this as an illusion to fuel his crazy judgmental schemes of grandeur to make everyone pay for what they did. Mm-hmm. But I think even if he did think that it was a righteous anger, one, we know it's not. But two, I think that he misunderstands what the righteous anger of God actually is. The Old Testament God has justice, but the
Mercy
loving, merciful God is not non-existent either.
Because I am more drawn to, in that vein, when, what is it? It must be Sodom and Gomorrah. Because you mentioned it earlier where Abraham, he's going, I'm gonna destroy, God, I don't know why I'm making God drunk me, I'm sorry. God goes, I'm gonna destroy him. And Abraham goes, well, for the sake of 100 people, will you avert destruction? Yeah, okay.
Even in Sodom and Gomorrah, he goes
all the way down to like
45. Yeah, I'll do it.
God will work with you.
Yeah, so I think Batman, honestly, is more of an Old Testament figure when it comes to biblical allusions.
How so?
Just the idea of vengeance and justice.
Not just in general.
Just in general.
Yeah.
This film maybe charts a different path. We'll see.
Well, no, we already said that it did.
Okay, we did. It is. Yes,
and I think that's the most significant thing about it. It's a film that its entire advertising campaign is I am vengeance. And the point of the movie is that he learns that he should not be vengeance.
Yeah. Gotta be more than that. Gotta be more.
Do you think there's repentance in the film? Do you think Gotham is saved because their hearts are turned? And
I don't think so yet.
Okay.
It's teeing up. It couldn't do that.
Okay.
That last monologue is martial law. It's like worse.
But Batman himself
not a good spot.
Certainly has an internal change towards...
Bruce repents and now can go and preach the gospel that it might be known.
Yeah.
It can be a beacon of hope that maybe others can see and turn their ways.
Leads them out of the rubble.
The waters.
I love that part. That was really good. Okay. A couple other biblical allusions in the film. I mean, in general, there's just some religious imagery in this movie.
Begins with Ave Maria.
Ave Maria and the cathedral and Wayne Tower looking like a cathedral inside. Looks gothic.
A lot of choir boys.
Choir boy singing Ave Maria, and just the name Jesus is uttered probably 6 or 7 times.
Not in a helpful way.
Well, I don't know. But it's the kind of thing that happens so much in the movie. It's clear the writer's calling attention to it. And at first it's really no big deal. A character will see something shocking and go, Jesus. But it just keeps happening. It's got to be 7 times, something like that. So the movie is playing with all this religious stuff, the Christian aesthetic, I guess, the church and everything. Why is it doing all these things? And why Ave Maria? Is it just to be... I mean, it's not like... I don't really know if I see Mary in the film anywhere. It's Catwoman at the end. She's nice to Batman. She goes, hey, it's okay. I guess that's kind of Mary-like. I don't know.
It seems just more trying to be creepy than anything.
Trying to be creepy?
Yeah. I mean, Ave Maria, certainly.
Oh, the singing.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like how they use like little lullabies in horror movie trailers.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. I was thinking it may just be the director just wanted to give a religious kind of tone, and these were things he chose to do.
Cathedrals add to like the Gothic aesthetic.
Yeah, and the religious themes too. Jesus, and another thing is there are a couple of shots in the movie where there's just one where Bruce is on an elevator when he goes to see Falcone, and there's just a circle behind him, and it's just this perfectly composed thing. It looks like an icon with a halo, a ring around him. It seems very, very intentional to me. But it's just, I think what I can say for sure is the director is intentionally inserting religious...
Swimming in the water.
He wants you to bring a religious reading to this movie somehow.
Yeah. It's probably more of a shallow kiddie pool.
Maybe.
But hey, there's water. We're treading in it.
I think maybe the things he chose to use are perhaps shallow, but the statement itself is maybe deeper.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, for a superhero film that is bordering on an R rating, I mean, think of most of the R-rated superhero films or the television programs out right now that lean into edgy things tend to be very worldly in their understanding. But for this film to be dark, but also reveling not in debauchery, but in redemption is awesome.
It's got a lot of church bells in the score, too.
That's true.
That's cool.
There's intentionality to it. How developed do you think Matt Reeves' theology is? Is he a Christian? It may take a few more watches.
A few more watches.
Have you still only seen it once?
I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about just the general religious illusions?
It's not an illusion specifically, but I think we should just point it out anytime on this podcast it happens, because it's a motif throughout all of storytelling, because it points to the greatest event in human history. There's a self-sacrificial moment, and it's short-lived. He doesn't actually die, but he does, like, he's swinging on the electrical cable.
I thought he was going to die.
He cuts the cord. Yeah. It seems like he's like, for the sake of everyone else, I am going to take this punishment and go into the floodwaters that everyone else may live. And of course, anytime there's a self-sacrifice of that nature, can point us back to...
I was confused by that. I don't know if it is self-sacrifice. I mean, I'm just not sure what's happening in that moment. Because definitely when he jumps out there, I think he's going to electrocute himself.
But then he's not being shot.
But then he falls, and when he falls, he seems to intentionally have fallen to help them out. So then there wasn't, I'm going to electrocute myself for people.
Well, very wise man we heard recently called it a second baptism.
Ben Shapiro said that.
Ben
Shapiro's got a crazy take on this movie. I don't know if you've looked
I haven't heard it yet.
It's very Jewish. That's all I'll say.
Anyway, yeah, I mean
that is interesting. Kind of falling, this kind of baptism.
It certainly is.
I don't know if the self-sacrifice is there, because it.
Right.
Did Batman ever at any point expect that he was going to die?
At least in the moment, I felt like that was where it was going.
No,
maybe that's not the intention.
I thought that too, but then I'm not sure the scene works.
It actually does that.
Yeah, I don't know if the scene works exactly, because it seems like his goal was to help the people,
right?
Help them out, and he can't do that if he's dead.
For sure. So it might have been a misreading of the scene, but regardless, anything that makes me think of the fact that Jesus died for us that was willing to sacrifice.
Interesting. No matter what the film actually says, as long as you think it in your head.
It was valuable.
Okay. All right. I have one more Bible verse. And this is real simple. Don't have to spend a lot of time on it. But just the healing of Batman, this world-weary character. I just thought of Matthew 11. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden. That whole thing.
Amen.
This is a heavy-laden dude.
He looks beaten down.
Yeah.
He looks sad.
And the emo My Chemical Romance pain on his face. I love that so much. It just made him look... I don't know. You just kind of pity this guy in this version.
Yeah.
It was good. And he's
the
healed
long
it.
hair, too.
He's healed at the end. It's great.
Yeah, those are good. I was definitely drawn a little bit more to that ending of, what you do with your trials, what you do with these scars. And that just reminded me just of James 1, 2 through 4, Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and that steadfastness has full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. I definitely think by the end, Batman's going, my parents' death, what I've gone through even these couple years as Batman, these tough things, they've produced something in me. They've produced something better. And I think the Riddler is going, it's my job to make you, these scars, I need to make you feel these scars, how deep they are. And I need you to, he is not perfected by his trials. Does not see them as a growing thing.
Definitely.
Another verse that kind of gets me there too is Romans 5, where he kind of goes, Romans 5:3. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, who he has given to us. So it's just this idea of that logical framework is, if we rejoice in our sufferings, we get hope. And that's definitely what we see at the end. And that is not at all what the Riddler believes. And so that's really cool. And I think that's actually the most applicable thing in the movie, is that our perspective on trials is a game changer to how we can actually help people. So that's the big biblical text for me.
That's awesome. I love just I love that idea that the Riddler, his response to his pain is the fact that everyone else should feel his pain just like he does. And the idea that you're talking about with Batman of just Bruce is experiencing the refiner's fire. It's tough and it's brutal, but he's coming out the other side more purified as opposed to more hateful. And that's so cool. The main thing that really stood out to me beyond so there's a lot about unforgiveness versus forgiveness, vengeance versus mercy. So I have some vengeance verses, but another thing was just the basic aspect of when the Riddler is revealing the corruption of Gotham. You just realize how evil the world can be. Just the basic nature of the sinful nature of man, that we do live in a fallen world, and until Christ can come in and, give us a regenerate heart that wants the things of the Lord, we go to very messed up places. And just the natural corruption of the world itself reminds me, I think we've brought it up in the podcast before, but just 2 Timothy 3, where it talks about the way people will be in the last days, that they will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, abusive, disobedient, ungrateful, unholy, unfeeling, uncooperative, slanderous, degenerate, brutal, hateful of what is good, traitors, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God.
That's awesome.
And you look at the corruption of government officials that say they love the people but really only love themselves. And you see police that are in the name of protecting, because justice is a big deal in the Bible, not just in punishment, but in uplifting as well. There's a huge biblical concept of justice of
you'll be delivered.
You'll be delivered. And also I meant to prepare these. There's an amazing Bible Project video that has them, but there's this biblical idea of be a voice for the people who are voiceless.
Oh, sure.
And give justice for those who are oppressed.
This
and
movie
in the court of law, never, ever slander or take a bribe and create like an abortion of justice. Like
this movie has that a little bit with Catwoman wanting to represent and be a voice for her friend.
Batman is definitely, you're made to go, I hate evil. I don't know, like, how dark is this world? I don't know. Just hearing you talk, I did have one very similar to what you just read, and I want to try and read in a Batman voice. Might not work. We'll have to see what happens. This is 2 Peter 2:12. And insert Gotham into this. But these, like irrational animals, creatures of instinct, born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheming about matters of which they are ignorant, will also be destroyed in their destruction, suffering wrong as they wage, reveling in their deceptions. They count it pleasure to revel in the daytime. They are blots and blemishes, reveling in their deceptions while they feast with you. They have eyes full of adultery, insatiable for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed. Accursed children. That's Gotham. You get this picture of a fallen world.
Destroyed in their destruction.
Yes.
And what's amazing about the gospel is that that world that's that depraved is the one that God literally came down and died to save because he loved them enough to accept them with open arms. So there's beauty in that. And you have the corruption. So this movie shows corruption so well. And then biblically, the answer to corruption, I think in 2 Peter 1. So may God give you more and more grace and peace as you grow in your knowledge of God and Jesus Christ our Lord. By his divine power, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. We have received all of this by coming to know him, the one who called us to himself by means of his marvelous glory and excellence. Because of his glory and excellence, he has given us great and precious promises. And here's the key text. These are the promises that enable you to share in his divine nature and escape the world's corruption caused by human desires. Yeah. So we're able to, as another verse says, like throw off the old self and be given Ephesians 2, throw off the old self, the corrupted self, the desires of the flesh. You're given a new heart. You're given a new self that desires righteousness and justice for the oppressed, but not in a vengeful way, in a way that loves and is greater.
And it's via promises.
And it's via the promises of the Lord.
Yeah. That's cool. It's almost like you'll never be at peace with the problems with this world until you understand that promise that it's not meant to be this way. There is a world to come. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that will give you peace. Yeah,
and the very project of Batman, you kind of go, because it's really prevalent, especially in the Rises, Dark Knight Rises, where you go, this life Batman's leading is just, it has taken a toll on him. You do kind of wonder, maybe does he long to put on the new self, and as Bruce Wayne, and just, the toll of being Batman, the toll of fighting evil and the toll of riding that line every day with the criminals. You just go, wow. The battle between the old and new self there must be very prevalent. It's cool.
Yeah. And not to just, wax eloquent, but I also don't think we can truly finish the Bible section on a movie that's all about justice and vengeance without talking about some revenge passages. Cool. So what is the biblical response to revenge? And the answer is not to kill the person because it's what they deserve, or to torture them with rat chambers because you think they're a rat. But to actually, Romans 10, bless those who curse you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. That line a lot.
Does Batman do that?
Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord.
It's tough hearing that, because Batman as a character, you're almost going to go, he's kind of compromising that. It's almost like it's necessary that he kind of breaks that in order to stop evil. Right. And if we don't see him doing those things that you just described.
So I think it's an interesting transition into the not Bible section, where on the one hand, this film is all about how vengeance is not ours. We can't deal it justly because we're corrupt and we're unjust. And that becoming a beacon of hope, becoming light and helping people is infinitely better than instilling fear. Yes. And you should not harm people because vengeance is the Lord's. The whole Catwoman scene.
Absolutely.
But then you get to the next step of, okay, does the Batman actually get to the point of actually love your enemies, actually pray for your enemies?
Well, it seems like a ridiculous question, because you just go...
As a superhero movie, you
can't when Batman sees the incels gunning down people, is he supposed to go, I love you guys? You guys, you know what? You can find a woman someday. I don't think his job is to hug the Riddler. I just don't think that's just what the Batman Project is about. Sure. It's just... But yeah, you're absolutely right. Another transition kind of passage, very similar to what you just said, is 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. It's just when you're using fear when you're love. Afraid, you are afraid of punishment. And so when you haven't been made perfect in love, and that you're not loving others and you're afraid, that probably means fear has to do with punishment. So you're kind of under the judgment of that. And that definitely lines up with Batman, but he also uses fear. Yeah. So I go, So anyway.
And I think Thomas Wayne, in the next line in verse 20, I think of him helping Falcone. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by doing so, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And I think that's the final shot of this film is like, I'm going to try to start overcoming evil with good. I'm going to look to the skies and help this little girl in the stretcher and not be the symbol of fear, but to try to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought this was not Bible.
It was a transition point.
The not Bible is,
there's a little of each in that passage.
It's strange because the movie's not, I don't know. Well, I don't know. What is not Bible here? Is there a ton of not Bible in this movie? What you got?
I don't see a ton of not Bible, honestly. I mean,
it's almost just like there's things that go against biblical concepts because that's who Batman is, but it's just kind of it's compromised.
I don't know because it.
Look, the Bible does not endorse being a vigilante. Boom. Boom. Done. Done.
Okay, I guess not.
It's just obvious.
Who says obey the emperor?
That's. I have that verse prepared. Thank you.
Yeah,
I truly appreciate it.
Submit to the
First
authorities.
Peter. Please hold while I turn.
Yeah, Paul says something in Romans about it. Romans 12.
Definitely.
But Peter says submit to the emperor or something.
I had this ready. Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as supreme or to the government sent by him to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should be put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Live as people who are free, not using your freedom to cover up evil, but living as servants of God. Honor everyone, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor.
Honor the emperor, that's it.
Emperor Palpatine. You gotta honor him. We just are not seeing pictures in the New Testament of overthrow the Romans, overthrow evil.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like the concepts of living good, the good life of Christ, will naturally put to shame evil. And then we look towards a judgment day where evil and the righteous will be eternally separated. Rather than put a costume on a knight and beat them up. But also help people once in a while if you can. If you're out there and you see someone being mugged or someone who broke their ankle, give them the medical.
Now, what does that mean for this film, though, where it is critiquing the idea of vengeance?
I did not watch this movie and go, Batman will no longer punch people. I don't think there's anything in the film that suggests that. But he is expanding his mandate, his mission statement.
Okay.
I think that's what he's doing. So I don't know. He definitely has a fuller heart, but he's still, evil needs to be destroyed.
So anytime good and evil fight in a movie, it's unbiblical?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
The Batman Project is riding the line.
Yeah.
It's just riding the
line.
Like the Gotham Project.
Is there a difference
The
like in a
Gotham
policeman doing his job versus someone who like puts on a cape and cowl at night? For freelance.
Especially because the film is so explicit about like in Lord of the Rings, no one's saying, I don't know, should we kill the orcs? I mean, they're nice. Like in some films don't even let you ask the question. It's just obvious. With this film, the entire time is asking you kind of vigilante. The cops are going, what? What are you doing with this? And other Batman films are much more explicit about vigilantism is bad. And I think this film is making you ask the question.
That's true, because the end of Rises, the law enforcement is redeemed.
Yeah. So, I would not say every time good and evil fight, you go, well, you should turn the other cheek, good guys. It's just the Batman Project, literally, the tension of the film itself is, you're wondering, is this a good thing he's doing? He's literally asking, is he even helping people?
It's hard for us as Americans to deal with that.
Yeah.
I know it is for me.
Yes.
Maybe it's easy for you guys.
As in, why'd you bring America into it?
Well, we staged a revolution.
That's what I'm saying. It's just part of our DNA to say, be anti-authority and say, I'm not doing that. It's stupid.
Stop the oppressors.
Stop the oppressors?
Yeah.
That's me.
There you go. Big anti-oppression guy over here.
I do think it's
Confirmed.
cool. This is probably the first time.
But what about I'm sorry.
Go for it.
What about in the Old Testament where they just go kill people?
Absolutely. Batman's more of an... That's what I meant earlier about Batman being more of an Old Testament figure.
Hey, I'm God's instrument of justice.
Yes.
It's time for you to die.
Yes.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Cool.
Take it easy. Just discard yourself to the discard pile. What were you saying?
What do you think, Nathan?
I was just saying, in films like Justice League, you do have a relationship between Jim Gordon and Batman, but it is cool in this film where, in the Adam West Batman, he's a Boy Scout that the policemen love. But in most Batman stories, they're chasing him down as if he is a criminal. And even though the police question him, that friendship between him and Gordon and the trust there allows him, he's actually on some level kind of hired as a freelance of the police because Jim Gordon's brought him into the crime scene to investigate it with everyone else. So there is kind of him.
Well, I think the reason that works is Jim Gordon realizes justice will not be served. These are no longer the true cops. This is no longer the true bread. This is something else has to happen.
And one time we hear Batman say to Jim, "You're not corrupt," and so we just know that Gordon, he is that one picture of he's truly incorrupt.
He says, "You're a good cop."
You're a good cop.
That's the last thing he says.
Truly loyal, truly...
But he did look at a gun one time. Very strange scene.
Truly just.
Yeah.
And it is cool. They do come out of completely nowhere, but it is cool that, like Rises, the law enforcement are redeemed in this film, where it's like, hey, just because of these awful things we're showing you, you may anticipate that all of Gotham is completely corrupt, but like within this corrupt structure, there are righteous people somewhere.
It's cool. The story was not told, but it's cool. It was good to see.
I think, there's not a lot that this movie said, and I went, ooh, not by boo. But there's a lot of stuff that I kind of went, could have been better. Maybe a little sloppy, a little thin. Like at the end, it's so telegraphed. Catwoman's like, well, I'm going to go rub some hedge fund people. Basically, Catwoman says a lot of questionable things, but pretty early on, you're going, she's on her own journey.
She's
There's a lot of things she says where you go, I don't think it's hard because it's cultural enough to go, this is probably a critique, but also people say this, so it's just kind of hard to tell how intentional it is. But at the end, she's like, I'm gotta go away. And Batman never says, hey, you should stay. And then at the end, you're like, maybe she'll turn around and help him, but she doesn't. I just go, what a nice slam dunk it would have been for redemption. At the very end, you see her headlights turning around. It's just a missed opportunity. But you're right, it is more filmed, it's setting up more stuff.
Yeah.
It's more like this film is more of
It's like a prologue.
Non-Bible by omission or sloppy storytelling than actually trespassing.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Exactly. Compared to the other two films we've done, it scores pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
I would say.
And I love, I keep talking about the duality of like, some politicians are bad, but there are good ones. There's some cops are bad, but there are good ones. Even in that scene with Catwoman, she's like, with the hedge fund people, she's like, kind of eat the rich. Like, these people are, just trust fund babies. They need to be punished.
Right.
And Bruce Wayne is one.
Right.
She is doing the thing that he did earlier of not having any awareness of the scars and the life of the person that she's talking to.
The Riddler's doing that too.
Yeah.
The Riddler sees Bruce Wayne as one of his oppressors.
Yep.
Part of the problem.
Yeah. He only sees everyone through the lens of himself and his own pain and through selfish eyes. It's really a film about selflessness and selfishness, vengeance, justice.
And Catwoman she's just not gotten there yet.
Mm-hmm. She's on a journey. Seeds were planted.
It seems like over 3 hours there could have been more journey, but you're right. Every journey begins with a first step.
Ideally, I think, I don't know, Batman's been living with his pain for a long time. Bruce Wayne has, and he will show her how to live with it.
That'd be awesome.
By giving her the New Testament.
I almost completely forgot one thing that I love, that I think the point of your greatest pain is often where your ministry comes from. Like, the most influential times in my life were in middle school. It's why I'm involved in middle school ministry. If you were in prison and you were touched by God there, you might be involved in prison ministry. I thought it was so cool to see his heartbreak, Bruce Wayne's heartbreak for the orphan.
The orphan.
Not only is that a biblical thing of taking care of the orphans and widows, but he sees that kid, he sees himself in that kid, and when he runs and jumps and protects him from the car that's about to run him over, it's powerful.
That's a good scene.
You see whenever he sees that kid.
I think that was a scene that made me want to see the movie, honestly, because they released that scene online, and that was just clearly the movie was saying something there.
Yeah. And you can tell the kid's like, yay. I mean, at the very end, he's the first one he helps him get out too.
At the end?
Yeah, he's the first one that helps him get out of the rubble.
That's right.
And then the stupid mayor.
Then the mayor.
The dumb mayor.
The
mayor who very courageously went out and got shot.
Wait. Here's my question. This is a plot question.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so...
Closing the Bible.
Mayor Real, she is elected, but she's elected after the other mayor's murder?
Well, so there was one quick line where they said the mayor's wife and child are with her to show solidarity, basically to say, we support this person being elected.
Who does she run against in the end?
No
That's
one.
my question.
She ran uncontested.
She ran uncontested. Okay. Yeah. That's unjust. Come on.
That's unjust.
What if people wrote in Batman?
Write in ballots. I want Batman.
That's awesome. That'd be a great story.
Batman becomes king of Gotham.
Batman becomes the mayor and Bruce Wayne just becomes a political figure. Bruce Wayne is the mayor and he tries to fix it as a political figure instead of a vigilante.
That's awesome. So by day he's the mayor, by night he's Batman. And at the end it's his re-election and he finds out he's Batman.
That's good. Built on a lie.
Great film.
That's really good.
Good film.
You want to do some application? Wrap up.
Yeah.
I have one more not Bible thing.
Okay.
And it has to do with the mayor, actually.
Okay.
At the end of the film, we've talked about
women
how
can't be mayors.
Agreed.
we've talked about how
1 Timothy 2.
Let them learn
Sorry.
quietly.
Sorry.
And also,
that's getting cut.
let them adorn themselves.
No,
with
it's- come on,
let them
it's
adorn
funny.
themselves with good work.
It's a joke.
So anyway, very end of the film, there's a lot of super strong stuff, looking to the sky, helping the little girl. But there is a moment that at first really piqued my ears in a good way, and then made me just kind of reconsider.
Then your ears went down.
My ears
then
went
down.
up and down. They flopped side to side. Where she says, the mayor is giving her speech, and they're talking about rebuilding. And she's like, you know, we need to have faith in people again. We need to rebuild. And she says the word faith. So I go, okay, that we are increasing in faith. We're believing in something. What are we believing for? And she says we have to have faith in our institutions. And the whole film we've seen, once again, we should submit to the authorities biblically. Sure. And we should pray for the institutions. We should not just be a terrorist and try to destroy them. Definitely not biblical. But also, it just made me think of how grateful I am as a Christian that the fact that my faith
That is
does not
not your
have to
highest
be
object.
built
Yeah,
on an
definitely.
institution. Politics, one day, is going to fail me, if not every day.
Yeah.
People, we trust them. We do our best to have faith in them, but people will let you down. I have faith in something that is, like, Jesus is actually a firm foundation to not
Definitely.
only place my life, but my
Definitely.
faith.
It's great because Batman as a story has always endorsed that because, you know, he probably has trust that people can change, but he sees Gotham is something good and worth saving, but he doesn't go, oh, I can get you elected. He just goes, we need to do something else.
He's responding to a need.
It
It's
takes
not
a
being-
certain kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that scene, the mayor, I don't know if the film
Endorses
is
everything she's
saying,
saying.
well, I think unfortunately at the end, I don't know if the film, that's where I would just go, I don't know if there's enough to conclude that the film is saying she's wrong. But she is definitely not, in my view, in the game. I mean, she's a chump. She goes, no, we need somebody who won't be afraid, who will stand up to them. She goes out and gets shot immediately. It was just hilarious.
Sure.
It was not
Not-
funny.
not
Actually,
sure.
not funny to see a woman get shot.
I'll
Sorry to
offer
imply that.
one more perspective on that is, I mean, there's a way of reading what she said as just, when she says faith in institutions, she doesn't mean worship them. She just means, we just got to believe that the police will be there tomorrow.
Yeah, we got to
Which-
believe that the police are worth supporting, that
Right.
they can actually
and, I mean,
be
you just
good.
can't have society if you don't
Now-
have some faith in your institutions.
However, she could have at least said, let's just pray.
Let's just
Now, apparently, I think one of our friends, I think Nicholas told us, he was right. That speech gives off strong 9/11 vibes. It might even be lifted from
Interesting.
it somehow. I mean,
Wow.
she was standing in front of like a building and
Yeah.
it looked like it.
Out of the ruins of a terrorist attack. Because, like, once again, it's not that the speech is a bad thing, and like you said, there is a good version of that where, like, you should support the police and not destroy institutions.
Sure.
Like, there's good. It's not that what she said was wrong, but it just made me think about the fact that even though the spiritual redemption is in the film itself doesn't really have, even if God is operating in the themes of it in the subtext, the film doesn't actually have a God to point to and go, hey, I have something to place my faith in that makes me know that Gotham is redeemable.
Definitely not explicitly said.
Um,
Yeah.
So it's just
Perhaps
reassuring to know that.
People say Jesus.
Exactly. Perhaps implied
Perhaps implied.
through the religious musings of the director.
And curses of the protagonists.
I'm going to do my application first because we actually were already getting into it. My application was going to be, Nathan, you pretty much already said it, but do not put your faith in worldly institutions.
Yeah. Put your faith in Batman.
Put your faith in Batman, who's acting in the character of Christ. You got to put your faith in something else. Because like you said, you kind of just stole what I was going to say.
I am so sorry. You're like, let's do application. I'm like, no. And then I said your application.
Hey.
No, it's all good. I'm gonna sound like Nathan for a second. I'm gonna choose to read something in the film that even if it's not there, I'm gonna choose to believe it. But
Amen.
yeah. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm just so taken with the idea that Batman he's become this savior figure at the end. And you could maybe say that the film is saying, hey, this is the thing that is going to rebuild our society. This act of service and this act of spiritual healing is the thing that we need to be building. That's the cornerstone. that we will build the new society on. So the application would be put your faith in Christ. Batman acting like Christ, that's not bad, but not in government, not in institutions, not in the cops. All this stuff will fall apart as the film shows. And the film may even explicitly say that this Christian act of service is a great thing to build your society on.
Absolutely.
That was on the film. But it was very
I don't
cool.
know.
It was
I
very
don't know.
cool.
I don't know.
I
The
think
next
it's
film
pretty
will confirm or deny.
Okay, I hear that.
Like Force Awakens. I'll give you reading the Force Awakens treatment.
Nathan, agree with me, please.
I definitely agree with you. I think that it's definitely there. Just, I mean, the way it's shot, you have the camera looking down and him looking up into the sky of like, I'm going to rebuild. How am I going to rebuild?
Well, actually, he's watching the helicopter fly away.
For me, it's the shot with the torch.
The torch.
Yo, here's the light. Follow me.
Here's the light.
Follow me, people.
Follow me up the bleachers.
Just follow me.
It's cool.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. There's a light in the darkness, and follow in the light. Help each other, serve each other, love
It's
each
real
other.
simple. That's the whole Bible. Just follow me. Honestly.
Follow me.
Forget all theology. Forget
The light in
all...
the darkness, and darkness has overcome it. Wait, I am darkness. Oh,
Follow me.
and rethink my branding.
I am the light, and I wear black, but I am the light.
Yes. Batman's a glorified body. He takes off the mask. It's just pure light.
It's a golden.
That's good.
Yeah.
bat
His
suit.
eyes are white in animated comics.
That's great.
What is your application?
Animated comics.
Whatever. What is your application, good sir?
I like that application. I love that.
It was okay.
My my application would be, so as we've discussed pretty thoroughly, vengeance is a major theme, deciding not to be the one to take it. And the same lesson that Catwoman learns, I think that some of the people listening might also need to learn, because I think all of us struggle with it at different times in our life, of finding freedom. Of like, hey, I might think that I've gotten over this thing, but like, even if someone did something wrong to you and it was actually wrong, and doesn't mean you have to reconcile with that person completely. It doesn't mean what they did was right. But if you have bitterness and resentment and unforgiveness in your heart, it's like trying to light yourself on fire in the hopes that the other person's going to die of smoke inhalation. You're like, in your efforts to preserve a righteous anger, you're actually letting that anger and that darkness destroy you.
There's this great verse in James 1 where it says, "For the anger of man does not produce righteousness of God." And even like you're saying, anyway, you might be trying to kindle that righteous flame, but you're gonna burn yourself.
Exactly. Amen. I appreciate that little layup pushing me further there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I would just encourage everyone, when you watch the film and you see just the total depravity of humankind, and you're going, how can I forgive this world? How can I forgive the things done to me? What if my father did those unspeakable things? What if there was abuse?
Sure.
Just like Selena Kyle. And you just have to think, the world was this broken and literally killed our savior, and he still died for it.
Yep.
And he died for you, and you have your own problems, and hopefully with the new heart that he's given us, we can learn for ourselves and for, everyone else, that we can experience more of him by purifying ourselves and just taking the bald fist of all that anger and just finding freedom and letting it go. Because true life and life abundantly is not a life holding on to the scars. And
Bald
the pain.
fist to open palm.
Bald fist to open palm.
Bald fist to handshake.
Hairless palm. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, one example of like high practical nature of that in the film is this. We didn't really mention it. It was just this strange, off-putting line where Catwoman says, "There's this weird part in the film. We didn't mention it earlier, but where Catwoman basically just says, all people are caring about now are these old, white, privileged people." Anyway, even her conception of whose suffering is worse or greater, when you're doing that, like you're saying, you are, even though you're trying to keep alive this righteousness, I'm trying to help people, what you're doing is you're burning yourself. So, anyway, that was an off-putting moment in the film. I definitely laid up what you said, I think, too. My application, very simple. The idea of what you do with your scars is very defining. And, we all go through bad things in life, and the way we react to them, the way we can use the pain we went through, we can either be perfected by it or we can be destroyed by it. So, anyway, when someone does something wrong to you, the way you respond and the way you treat them, that's just, you can either be perfected by it and be strengthened, or you can become like them and pay with them, like he says in the film.
What if the Batman served Riddler?
I'm sorry?
What if the Batman helped Riddler somehow?
Teamed up.
Oh,
I don't
you
know, he-
helped him, like give him some counseling?
I don't know. Something.
That
Hey, man,
actually,
What an act of service.
Hey
that
man,
would
I
be.
found your parents.
one
They are dead.
They were dead. Also, they're both white and old and privileged.
one final
Wow.
kind of summary that also kind of rounds back to something I just forgot.
Okay.
The program that ends up being the grand conspiracy that's used for all the bribes is called renewal.
Yeah.
And which is already kind of a spiritually loaded term of like,
Right.
when the Holy Spirit comes into us, we are renewed, we are a new creation. And in this film, it's abused, and the orphans are in horrible conditions. They're not taken care of. They're barely given beds and rooms to sleep. There's mice, and it's awful. And what you were talking about, the Christian service, I think it's practical for us to go out and be the hands and feet of Jesus and give that practical service. And I think it's cool that this movie focuses on the ones that Jesus talks about so much that he came to save: the brokenhearted, the orphans, the lowly, and
Sight to the
think-
blind.
True religion undefiled before God is this: those who help widows and orphans in their affliction.
yes. So not only is this film centered on a lot of that brokenness, and people like the Riddler was not helped despite being an orphan, and renewal was not a renewed program in the end, but we can be the people that actually live that out right and be the hands and feet of Jesus to help renew a broken world and help the lowest of the low, and bring light to the world, put our torches up in the air and be salt and light, like Matthew says.
That would be really cool to see Batman explore that a little more. See it as maybe Batman gives him his money to help. Like kind of in The Dark Knight, he has an orphanage or whatever. I don't know. Be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good applications.
We'll see
Awesome.
what happens. They're looking to me to wrap up.
Please stop. Wrap up. Please end this podcast.
In the podcast now.
That was
Why
fun.
isn't the podcast over?
That's funny. It was a good movie. That was fun, guys.
Light it up.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
Well, they stole that, even that. Wow.
They
even,
did?
Even the flare.
It's just at some point it's just Jesus. That's all.
Yep.
It is. At some point it's just the Holy Spirit. That's
Wrap
all
it
is.
up.
Good film, some good Christian stuff. Go check it out if you don't mind a long film, a long 3-hour
Clue train.
wading into the Christian waters.
Yes.
Much waiting.
Much waiting. A lot of waiting.
It is wading. It's not splashing. It's not swimming. It's slowly wading through the water.
Yep. Cold waters.
And it's raining, but it looks awesome, and you will enjoy it if you enjoy this kind of movie.
If you can even see what's going on.
Yeah, good movie. The message on vengeance and peace, spiritual
Powerful
peace.
stuff.
It's good. It's good, and maybe a new. Excited to see what they do with it. And maybe they may have to actually write some original material for Batman after this.
And if you do bring your, mature teenager with you, then this is an opportunity to like actually have these discussions with them too.
Sure.
This is an opportunity to talk about, hey,
Bring your teens.
when your, friend at school does something or like you're bullied, like, and you have a heart of vengeance, this can maybe be a way to like open up the discussion.
When
of that.
your Russian friend you're living with gets brutally murdered. When your Russian friend you're living with gets brutally strangled by your ex-father.
Ex-father.
Here's what you need to do. Very, very applicable film to a teenager.
Oh, you're quoting the movie.
Yes.
You're like, who's Russian friend?
I thought he was gonna do like a Ukraine joke or something. I didn't know what was going on.
no.
I didn't know what was going on.
with Ukraine.
Okay, we're done here. Yeah, go see this movie. I think God had something to do with this movie. I think he was executive producer, perhaps.
More of a producer.
Maybe starring God.
Directed
That seems
by
too
God.
blasphemous.
Too blasphemous. Okay, good movie though.